The Dark Crystal film is a film that made me realize, why don't we make more movies like this? Welcome back, everyone. We're here today to talk about The Dark Crystal. It was my first time watching this movie. I know. It is a gap in my film history knowledge. I have never watched The Dark Crystal before. I know it's a classic. I know it's Jim Henson. And I know that it is amazing. These are all the things that I had heard anyways, but I had never seen it. I do think I tried to watch some of the Dark Crystal show, but I don't remember finishing the first episode. I don't think I could really get into it, which now that I've seen this movie, I do want to go back and watch the show now. But let's talk about my thoughts on this. But before we get into my thoughts on this movie, I want to know from you, what is your favorite fantasy film? Let me know in the comments below. I also want to say thank you to my community who we unlocked this watch along via my streams, and if you are not aware, I stream about 3 days a week. Usually I try to do longer streams here live on YouTube and also over at twitch.tv/vampx13. So you can find me there live. I might be live right now, and you might be able to help me get to a goal, or we can do another watch along, which I host over on my Discord. And if you ever want to join the Discord, come to the lives. We have an invitation awaiting for you. When it comes to Dark Crystal, I want to start off by saying the puppetry in this film is just pure artistry. I've seen puppet films before, and I feel like The Muppets is the only place where you usually get a full feature-length film that is done with puppets. But this movie made me realize, I mean, you could use puppets to do any kinds of movies, really. There really isn't any limit to what we can do with puppets. It is amazing what they create in this movie, and just how much the design of the characters, the detail of those characters allows you to settle into the world and takes you on a beautiful and sometimes horrifying journey. So that is something that I absolutely adored about this, and I would love to see more movies like it. I don't know why we don't do more like it, but I'd love to hear if there's some other films that you love that are done with puppets that you would recommend. Please do let me know in the chat, because I do want to watch more movies that are in this art form. I think puppetry is a bit of a, not a dying art form, but just a bit of a lost art form where people don't think of it as being sustainable for an entire movie and all of the characters are puppets. It's the same thing with animatronics at times. I feel like animatronics also have faded off, and every now and then we get an animatronic or we get a puppet in a movie that's amazing. Obviously we have Grogu in The Mandalorian and Grogu and in the Mandalorian TV show, and that is a really well done puppet, but for the most part a lot of films don't use that kind of artistry or technology as much anymore. It feels like it's becoming a lost art, and that makes me sad. The other thing about Dark Crystal that I wasn't expecting is just how dark it is. I know it's dark fantasy, I knew that going in, but man, it's bleak in here, and there are terrible things happening. There's whole groups of people that are rounded up and tormented, and I was not expecting it to be this frightening. I imagine watching this as a kid, which a lot of people did, this would have been very disturbing for a lot of people. I am glad that I waited until now to watch this movie, because I feel as though I would have been scared perhaps if I had watched it at a different point in my life, and I still found it to be terrifying at moments. I was surprised at how horrific it was. I think what most attracted me to it as well is that it is a story that is very classic. It's a classic hero tale. We're going out on a quest with Jen, and Jen is such a lovely, whimsical character who has such a pure heart. It's just someone that you connect to. The general story of the Dark Crystal is that Jen is being sent on this quest to reunite all of the pieces of the Dark Crystal. So he has a shard, and he has to try to get that back into the connection with the Dark Crystal, and in order to do so, he has to go on this trek. He is one of the last few surviving Gelflings, and along his quest, he meets friends, he has to try to figure out how to solve problems, And it's all about this dark crystal, which, because it is not complete, has corrupted the land and is being used to oppress people by the Skeksis. And the Skeksis versus the Gelflings, this whole idea of what we're seeing in this story, I thought was really beautiful. And just the way that the story is laid out for you, it feels like an epic tale. It feels like something like the never-ending story, you know, where I feel as though I'm in a book and someone's reading a fantasy story to me, but instead of it being read to you, you're getting all these really powerful, very strong visuals. After watching it, I understand why this is considered to be such a fan favorite by people and such an iconic film that you really do have to watch to experience it. The way that you get attached to the characters, I mean, the designs for these characters are absolutely amazing, and it definitely made me want to cosplay as some of the Dark Crystal cast. I love Kira. I would love to do a Kira cosplay, but I also love that everyone has such a distinct look. So when you're creating these cosplays, you also kind of have to figure out, like, how do I get the face right, because they're not human. And that's, I think, the cool thing that you can do with puppetry is you can create creatures that feel real because they are in live action, they are tangible. You could reach out and touch those beings. They are puppets, right? So they exist. They're existing in real time and being manipulated by people. There's a humanity to them because we have such masterful puppeteers who are working on controlling these puppets. And then you marry that with the sound, with the voices that they chose, and it's beautiful. It's just a beautifully done movie. And I think there's something so otherworldly about the Dark Crystal that really makes me want to inhabit that world, and I want to join in on all of that. And so that's why I think I feel like I want to cosplay it, even though there's huge boundaries. You'd have to figure out, like, how am I going to do that? Because I don't look like a Gelfling, so I'm going to have to kind of transform my look, my face, and then also there's the design of just the costumes and all of that, which is also very, very well done. It's a beautiful film in the sense of, if you're just looking at the craftsmanship alone, this film is amazing. And thinking about all of these sets that they built, it's on another level. And some of this also feels like it's taking place in the world. It really is like the Muppets when they come into the real world and we have these big feature films. You feel like it's real, like the Muppets are real, just like you feel like the Dark Crystal is an age-old story that happened in another world that you could almost go to. It feels so real, like you could reach out and touch that world. You can imagine what it feels like to be there, for the sun to be shining on your face, or to be in these dark areas and be scared and alone and cold. There is something about it that is very sensorial when you watch it, and so I had this kind of sense connection to it as I was watching. Not very many movies make me feel like that, so I think this film is really special. I had this very sensorial connection to the film. It was like I could imagine what it would feel like to be in the world when it comes to all of my five senses. And I think that that is something that is very unique. There are not a lot of movies that make me feel that way when I watch them. It's also a genuinely beautiful story about love and compassion, truth, honesty, light, overcoming cruelty and darkness and oppression. And I loved all of that. And I love how these are characters that are just intrinsically good and intrinsically bad. It's not really about what caused this to happen. I mean, the Dark Crystal kind of caused it to happen and we're fixing that problem, but it's not that these characters were hurt and then became cruel. There's not an explanation for it. It just is. And there's a beauty to the simplicity of that story, and yet the world is so rich, so there's still a lot for you to explore and enjoy in the film. It's not a shallow story, it does have depth, but on the surface level, it is a very traditional hero story. And I love hero tales. I mean, I'm a big fan of superheroes, as you may or may not know, and that is something that is very connected into the hero's story, which is, some believe, the hero's tale is one of the oldest stories in all of humankind, and that it is one of the most powerful stories in the sense that there are elements to that story that just resonate all across the world with everybody. There are things for everyone in it, and so we can all connect when it comes to a hero's quest. And that's probably also part of the power of the Dark Crystal, is it's utilizing that, but it's not just doing that and phoning it in. It also is caring about every little detail of the story as we go through. And while it is a story with puppets, I really was surprised at just how traumatic it feels at times. There's a lot of really messed up stuff that happens in here. I mean, I love Fizzgig. He's so cute. And yet, when you think about what happens to him, this lovable, chaotic beast, I never thought they were gonna go that hard with it. And what that adds to is the stakes of the film and the story. We're not just building up this world where if we don't complete this quest, that's it. Every good thing is going to be wiped out, is going to be taken out. They weren't kidding about that. That's real. And you see that when you see just how the other characters have been oppressed by the Skeksis, how they've been imprisoned, how they've been treated. And then also the fact that we are laying on the line the lives of our characters. And it's not clear what will happen to them, you know? This isn't a story where everyone's safe, and even though things are going really poorly, like, no one will be injured. And that is something that I was surprised and delighted by, because I just feel like it adds to the depth of the emotion that you feel when you connect to a story like The Dark Crystal. There's also kind of a soft nobility to the film and to the characters. There's something that feels not just otherworldly about them, but aspirational. It's something you want to look up to. And yet, Jen and Kira are powerful characters, but they are not tough characters. I mean, they are tough, but in their softness, they're tough. There's a vulnerability to these characters that I thought was so beautiful. And the fact that those are our heroes for the story, these people that have empathy and compassion, I think it's just a really beautiful message, and I can understand why it's a feel-good film for a lot of people. This would be a feel-good film for me. I would watch this to remind myself of the light and good in the world, and of course, it coming from Jim Henson just makes a lot of sense to me, because I think he embodied a lot of those beautiful elements of what humanity, of what people are capable of. And I loved watching this story and getting to go to this world and explore it. So thank you to everyone that joined me for the watch along. And thank you to you who has joined me for this review. It was a true delight and a true treat to jump into The Dark Crystal for the first time and experience it. And I cannot wait to watch the show at some point. Let me know if you would like to hear my thoughts on the show whenever I do get around to watching that. I would love to know if that's a video you'd be interested in. And thank you for taking the time out of your day to watch this review. If you liked this video and if you want to make sure other people can find it, why not leave a comment, subscribe, or hype it? All of that does help me. And I appreciate you also watching a review about a film that is older. I like doing these and I want to do more of these. So when these do well, it tells me that I can make more content like that. So yeah, feel free to give it a share if it's something you liked. That's all I really have to say. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to watch. I'll see you in the next one. And until next time, friends, as always, stay nerdy. Bye. And if you love hearing me review older films, I do that sometimes, and you can check out more of that over here. Also, we have a watch along that happens on the Patreon every month. Did you know?